Welcome to The Change, a podcast about the changes in life that shake, break, and make us. I'm Laura, a 45-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum who has until recently always loved change.
And I'm Cathy, a 53-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum, and change is actually my kryptonite. We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia on which this podcast is recorded and recognise the continuing connections to lands, waters and communities.
We pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and elders past and present.
The Season 2 partner of The Change is Olivio Wellness Skincare, hydrating natural skincare for the over 40s.
Keep listening to the end of this episode for a discount code for your next order of Olivio Wellness products.
Hey, Laura, how you going?
Good, Cathy. I am good, and I'm ready to hear about our guest for today. Do tell.
Anna Grosman is an accomplished entrepreneur with a passion for empowering women. As one of the founders of Aphrodisiac Male Escorts, which thrived from 2012 to 2018, Anna is now the founder and owner of HerConfidant, an elite male escort agency for women.
Mm.
Warm, nurturing, and no nonsense, Anna advocates for female sexuality without stigma and shame. In fact, she'll be the reassuring voice you'll hear on the phone when you decide to book an appointment. If you decide to book an appointment.
Yes.
At age 52, it probably won't surprise you to learn that married mum of two, Anna has lived a very full life.
Anna, welcome to The Change. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, ladies. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to chat with you this evening.
We are too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Anna, your calling, and it sounds like it really is a calling, is to facilitate memorable connections where women can explore their sensual truth without judgment, which I love. I guess tell us all about where that calling originates from and how you got started in this industry.
Well, I've always been a bit sort of curious as a young girl about sex and intrigued about what it's all about. I guess I had a bit of a high sex drive as well as a young teenager, and which is healthy.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
just used to get books out, look through things, get myself all sort of read up. And then once I started dating, I sort of knew it was I sort of prepped myself in a way. So I was always aware of what was going to happen. Yeah, it's just
Just like a lifelong fascination.
yeah. And so
Mm.
so when I started dating my husband and starting experimenting and trying different things, it was just we're both on the same wave and experienced things together, which were great. And it's just been something quite natural and normal. And I thought everyone else was having the type of sex I was, but obviously they weren't.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't want to sort of talk about it. They were all or even if they did talk about it, they weren't really having it. But I'm quite an open book and happy to share and discuss whatever it might be, nothing to be ashamed of. It's all very natural and normal. And I just love connecting with people, I always have, and helping people. It's just something that's in my character, and it just gets me excited if I can help anyone, whichever form that is, and whichever industry I've worked in. And I've worked in, in my 20s, I worked for a medical clinic. I managed a medical clinic, and then I had my kids, and then in my 30s to early 40s, I did massage therapy, which was absolutely a wonderful experience, being able to, release tension, help people, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. They would walk in. And then I started my first male escort agency in my early 40s. So that came about, my girlfriend and I used to go to Sexpo all the time, every year.
Yeah.
You want to buy some new toys or vibes or new lingerie. And we just felt every year there was just less and less out there for women. It was just
Interesting.
nothing of quality. It was all about men and satisfying men. And after a few years of going, we just thought, can't be bothered going. We can get things going into a shop. Like, what's the point?
Yep.
Mm.
Of, that have male strippers who are greased up and, being a bit sleazy and, all that kind of stuff. And, when you're in your I think I was in my 30s then, and I'm
Mm.
over it, had enough strippers at all my birthdays and functions. And it's like, you want something substantial, something of quality. And a lot of my friends were then in their 30s, divorcing with kids,
Mm.
single mums, and also colleagues and people that I'd worked with. So, I had a lot of women around me that sort of told me what they were looking for and what type of gentleman, and that was just really hard to find those type of gentlemen that they were looking for. So my girlfriend and I thought, well, what about if we an original thought was to open up a club specifically for women,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
where men would actually serve you in beautiful white shirts, and where it was just women only, where women could sit down with their girlfriends and just talk, laugh, feel really safe,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
open to not having to be approached by a man who was drunk or, just harassed. And that was a big dream, which could maybe
Mm.
one day still happen.
Yeah, I like the
Then,
sound of it. It sounds lovely.
Mm.
yeah, and there are a lot of male clubs out there that are only
Mm.
specifically for men, and we just
Mm.
thought there's nothing like that for women. So anyway, we thought, what would be the next best thing? So that's where my first business, Aphrodisiac, came through, and we created that. We did 2 years of intensive, research, because we're
Mm.
both not from we weren't both from the industry.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite interesting and eye opening. We were very welcomed, and you know, we both thought that it was, what kind of people would we meet? And they were all just such lovely men and women that really helped us and guided us along the way to get to where we needed to with all the information and to set up Aphrodisiac. And back then, in 2012, you had to sit a 2-hour exam and you had to
Oh.
study the Sex Work Act. So it was like almost sitting for a KGB sort of, it was quite, it was quite thorough. They needed to know everything about my family, my husband,
Wow.
that they needed to know. And so
Yeah.
we did all that, we got that, and yeah, we ran Aphrodisiac for 6 years, and then 2018 we finished up, just mutually decided to go separate ways, and then had a break. And last 4 years I've been looking after my health. Have had
Mm.
lots of different things, hysterectomy, um,
Goodness.
2 hip replacements, and I'm here now again,
Mm-hmm.
2024, as
Yeah.
a lot of women have come back to me and said, "You need to open up, like, you need to restart." So I've just launched HerConfidant, yeah, on Valentine's Day this year,
Yep.
as a
Perfect.
yeah, as a gift to women in Australia and all over the
Mm.
world. Quality service that women can feel safe and trustworthy. It's a trustworthy service where I
Mm-hmm.
vet the gentleman, I go and get all the police checks, I do all the health checks. I make sure that, I work with only the best of, the people out there. And they're well educated, they're well spoken, they're mature, they appreciate women who, for who they are, and they really want to make a difference in women's lives, and that's really, really important. They're respectful, yeah, they just do the right thing, you know.
Mm.
That's
Mm.
Before we get on to the next question, I was just really interested in something you said quite early on in, there about women and relationships and women going through divorce. And, so many women in midlife do struggle. And you spoke about how you thought everyone else was having the same sort of sex that you were having.
Mm.
And I just find it really interesting that lots of people don't talk about sex. And just before we came on mic, Cathy, you were saying you feel like you're not a prude, but maybe that you are.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's funny because, and I mean, I've said it before as well.
Mm.
My psychiatrist actually says he equates happiness and sex, and he
Mm.
often says that um, a lot of people are pretending to be happier than they are, and also having more sex than they really are. And
Ah.
yeah, and if we were a bit more honest with each other,
mm,
I know, yeah, like, I mean, I don't sit around and talk about it with my friends, but we as a society, we want everybody to think we're happy. We want everyone to think that we're having lots of sex, I think. But like what happens between a couple is often quite different to what,
Mm.
yeah.
And I think as too, when you're younger and you're dating, like you spend a lot of time laughing and talking about sex and fun times with your girlfriends, and then you kind of get married, and that topic sort of becomes off for most women. I feel like it's not something
Mm,
I have spent a lot of time talking with girlfriends about because it is kind of uncomfortable. You might know their husband, you see them at school drop off or whatnot. It's a very different sort of time of life. So, I mean, I do have close girlfriends that I would talk about this kind of stuff with, but it is much more awkward. And I think it's harder for women to communicate. And as you said, I think, Anna, about, there's just some shame around even talking about sex and being sexual as a woman. It's like, it's such a, I don't know, it's a tricky one, isn't it? So,
Women get slut shamed,
that's
unfortunately.
right.
So
yeah,
Yeah.
a man goes
absolutely.
out and sleeps with, I don't know, 50 to 100 men. He gets a pat on the back and says, "Good on you, mate."
Mm,
Even young boys are taken to brothels to lose their virginity.
mm,
I mean, just things
Mm,
like that. Imagine, there's no women brothels out there because women would not ever step foot in. We did look at the opening of something like that, but
mm,
we did our research, and not one woman would step into a female brothel because
mm,
the stigma of what the other person next to her would be thinking of. Oh, look, firstly, you might know each other, and secondly, is like, oh, what is she doing? Like, yeah, we just judge so much. Like,
oh, we
yeah.
do. I think women judge each other a lot more than we think that people are looking at us. You know what I mean? Like we're really worried that everyone's judging what we're doing, but actually they're just really getting on with their own lives. And we
exactly.
worry about that judgment from other women.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we equally judge other women as well
Mm.
without meaning to. I think
Yeah,
it's a bit of a,
subconsciously sometimes.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like the what is it? There's that phrase that says the first thought you have is kind of the thought that you've been conditioned or to have. It's
Mm,
kind of like you look at someone, you instantly judge them, but if there's that second thought where you go no no no, and you back it up, and that's your grown up self talking and kind
mm,
of saying no, I shouldn't be thinking that, I shouldn't be judging that. And as long as you have that second thought that carries through, I suppose it's at least shows that you are trying to learn and trying to change your thought patterns and the kind of that real entrenched judgment that we have growing up as women and how we have perceived sex and being sexually active or being promiscuous as like a bad thing,
Yeah,
and it's
good girls don't do that, do
that's right, it's this
mm.
good thing, isn't it? Yeah, it's
they?
really wrapped up in so much stuff, just real basic, especially if you went to Catholic school like me. Oh dear, disaster.
Absolutely.
It sounds like it's such an interesting and also obviously quite a there's a lot of technicalities around working in the sex industry. And, you having to sit an exam even. That's something that I think a lot of people
Mm.
perhaps don't
Well,
consider.
that was something back in 2012. Now in the end of last year, December the 1st, 2023,
Mm,
um, it's been decriminalized. So there's no licenses
okay. Yep.
that
Mm.
have changed. The sex workers of Victoria have done a lot of work to, get that through.
Mhm.
And also, which two other things which I don't really agree with, and neither does my husband, that sex workers cannot get health checked
Oh.
regularly because they used to have to do it every 3 months, which I think
Mhm.
is absolutely ridiculous.
This is for the sex workers themselves. They have to have
Yeah,
certain
yeah,
amounts of checks. Okay.
yeah. So it was quarterly, so every 3 months they had to do
Yeah.
that.
Is
So
that a physical check
yeah,
or
now it's become a blood test.
okay.
Yeah, they used to do a swab and
Yep.
check for
Mhm.
herpes and blood tests just to make
Mm.
sure.
Mhm.
And the second one was can't force them to wear a condom.
Oh.
Right.
What
Wow.
kind of rubbish is that? You
Mm.
wanna have you wanna have safe sex. Why
Yes.
would you take that? Like, I just can't understand,
Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
strange one.
Yeah, so I've got a contract written up by my lawyer that whoever works with me, they must adhere
Mm.
to having health checks every 3 months.
Mm.
They must, wear a condom.
Yeah.
If it's not on,
Yep.
it's not on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Smart.
Fair enough.
You
Fair
have
Mm.
to
enough.
make sure that
Absolutely.
everyone's safety is number one. Health, safety,
Yeah.
every aspect.
Yeah.
Mm.
Can you tell us a little bit about like the women that you might come in contact
Yeah.
with? Like, obviously, not specifically who they are, but the types of women or what they might, what types of experiences they might be looking for.
So there's a diverse group of women that use these services. They can range from the age of early 20s right through to 70s. So the younger ones in their 20s, 30s, and even 40s are sometimes virgins and have never experienced
Wow. Yep.
sex. And they want their first time to be in a safe environment where they're with someone who's experienced, who
Mhm.
will lead the way and make sure it's a memorable experience as well at the same time. And they're just so nervous. They've obviously never been touched, and sometimes that's from trauma or rape as a young
Mhm.
child, or through a relationship of
Mm.
sorts. So it's quite a delicate, sensitive um, situation, and yeah, the gentlemen that I work with are very they're very respectful, and they take their time and always consent where, are you okay with this? Are you comfortable with that? Making sure that the woman's,
Mhm.
that's what she's really wanting to experience. And, um, you know, between myself, the client, and the gentleman, I'm constantly there making sure that everyone is safe, both gentlemen and the client.
Mhm.
I need to make sure that that's really, really important to me. So
You mean
yeah,
like in the lead up to you're not
yeah,
there on the
and
yeah.
even during, sometimes they'll call and
Okay.
say,
Yeah.
"Hey, uh, it's not gonna happen," and
Yeah.
that's all that, it's all
Mhm.
Yeah.
right. It's all about hers. It's
Yeah.
not
Mhm.
about the female client, and if she decides to, she doesn't want to, then she doesn't want to. No one's forcing
Mhm.
her.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's one sort of type. So and like I said, they go up to 30 and 40-year-olds who have never
Mm.
sex, or
Mhm.
they've been married and not been touched in 20 years or 10
Oh
years.
my goodness.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
And
beyond
that
comprehensible. Like,
Mm.
I've sat here and just cried with these women, and
Mm.
it's absolutely heartbreaking that they marry and then there's just no touch, there's no human connection, and
mm.
that's part of marriage. That's why you get married, to be with someone, to feel loved, to be wanted, to feel special, to be heard, and then it's nothing. Like, and the
Mm.
amounts of women that actually get raped while they're married,
Mm.
it's
Mm.
ridiculous,
Mm.
beyond ridiculous.
Yeah.
Terrifying. Yeah.
So yeah, there's a serious part to it. And then we have the ladies who just single mums who want to want companionship, who want to interact and go out and maybe have some fun. Um,
Mm.
just sort of find their mojo again, be sexual, get back, and after a divorce, getting back onto the horse, as they say,
Mhm.
getting back into the swing of things, of
Mm.
dating and going out and sex and all that. So you've got those type of women as well, and they vary as well, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
Then we have the corporate ladies, corporate women
Ah.
who are married to their jobs. They don't
Yeah.
have kids sometimes, mostly, and they just they book it in like they're going for a
Mhm.
wax.
Yeah. Just
So,
Yep.
scheduling sex. Yeah. Love
yeah,
it.
they
Mm.
don't wanna go out and
Mm.
have a dud experience in a bar or club.
Mhm. Fair enough.
Safety-wise, yeah,
Mm.
safety-wise, they're worried a bit about getting their drinks spiked or getting raped or for whatever
Mm.
other reasons, or just having a bad sex experience.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this way, this is a sure thing. They're going to get companionship. They're going to maybe go out and have a drink, dinner, a show, whatever they choose to do. And it's just a way of just relaxing and enjoying their evening. And it's all about what they want.
Mm.
Mm.
They control the whole booking, so
Yeah.
they're in
You
charge.
provide a service. Yeah.
Yeah, so, they choose what they wanna do with their time, their money, and their
Mm.
body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that, and then we go into then ladies who have become widowed and
Mm.
only
Mm.
been with their husbands and only have had vanilla sex, and they just wanna they've still got that inclination, they still have a bit of sex drive. They want to feel like a woman, and
Mm.
Mm.
so they will use the services to also find their mojo again and just find who they are, and
Mm.
just have a bit of fun. A good sense of humor sometimes is the guys all have a great sense of humor and don't take things too seriously as well,
Mhm.
so the women feel really comfortable. And one lady in particular, she was, I think, in her 60s or 70s. The gentleman said that he hasn't had such amazing sex. The
Wow.
35-year-old, she was just ready to go, grabbed him when he'd walk in and just have the best time ever.
Oh,
So there's
Yeah.
wow.
like that.
Lovely.
Or there's older women who just want to have a companion to go out for dinner or a
Mm.
date or a show. Sometimes the men cook. Sometimes they go away for weekends. Whatever there's so many different options.
Mm.
Mm.
We could be here
And
all
can
day.
I ask just about the men? So we've talked about the women, the clients, and
Yeah.
the men, are they of different age groups? And obviously you said sense of humor. I'm assuming they've got to be fairly, maybe not good looking, but like tidy, or I don't know, sort of
They
a
have to
certain
be,
type.
handsome in
Yes.
their own way. They have to be
Yeah.
emotionally intelligent,
Yeah.
mature, and they have to have
Mm.
life experience.
Yeah.
And they need to love every aspect of a woman and just spending
Mm.
time and talking, and they're all professional in their own league. They come from professional industries, so they work
Yeah.
full time. This is something they do part time.
Wow.
And they're not married, they're single. I don't work with married men.
Mhm.
I'm not here to break up marriages.
Yeah.
The only one that I've ever worked with, he had an open marriage
Mhm.
wife, and that was fine,
Yeah.
and they're still married. So
Wow.
it works
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
Everyone does whatever suits them, I guess.
Yes.
They're really great with women. And I found the common denominator was that they were all raised by really amazing, strong women. A lot of the
Mm.
times, single mums as well.
Wow.
They were raised with grandmothers and had sisters a lot of the time, and so it's quite natural for them to speak to a woman, from a young age,
Mm.
and being able to have those mature discussions and be able to just really understand a woman.
Mm. And obviously comfortable in themselves and who they are, and
Yeah.
yeah, good men. Talking of good men, you have been married for 30 years, you have 2 adult sons. I
Yeah.
am just so curious to know how your family, they obviously know what you do, and yeah, tell me how that has kind
Mhm.
of worked in.
My husband's a doctor, so
Yeah.
he's
Mm.
seeing women doing pap smears forever.
Yeah.
Um, and we've just got a really strong trust bond. We always have.
Mm.
Been
Yeah.
together for 36 years, and um, yeah, mutual respect for each other. And it's a business at the end of the day. I
Yeah.
Mm.
compare it to a PR agency or an HR agency. I've got my client and I've got my employee or slash
Yeah.
contractor, and I match them up. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Sometimes they have sex, sometimes they don't. But how
Mm.
many businesses out there are having sex, but also breaking up marriages and all that
Mm.
kind of stuff. And
Mm.
I'm not about that here. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like what you do as well. You're not only are you connecting women to, have sex and have a good time, but some of these women have gone through trauma. Some of these women are afraid, or they just want to reconnect with their sexual side. So
yeah,
it is, as you say, you're providing a service without judgment, and
definitely.
without businesses like yours, where I don't know where women could go. You're kind of providing a safe space
Yeah,
in that way.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
there are a few directories where men are on, and
Mm,
I've gone through all of them recently just before I launched HerConfidant, and
mm,
got no one really to compete. No one's on the same par as me, and
mm,
I've got one of the gentlemen that used to work for us, and he went off and opened up his own. He just works for himself, and
mm,
keep in touch with him. So I'm in the loop and in real
mm.
time of what's going on, what type of clients he's had, and yeah, it's still a needed business and
Mm,
niche for it. It's not for everyone, but
no.
that's cool, you know.
Yeah, totally. Is it a growth industry? Do you think, like, have you noticed it since 2012, there's more women
I think it's
interested?
more it's more acceptable. I think
Mm,
more women are aware, because I remember women saying to me, "I didn't even know that was an option." And I said,
mm.
"I know, yeah." It's just everyone thinks about female escorts. They
Yeah.
don't think about male escorts for women.
Mm,
Mm,
Yeah, again, going back to the stigma and the shame, and that's
mm.
something I'm really trying to, get people to really see what it's all about. It's just another business like any other. Really,
Yeah.
at the end of the
yeah.
day, if you do any form of business, you do it, from treating people the way you'd like to be treated, with
Mm,
integrity and
Mm,
respect and kindness and compassion, and just listening to your client's needs, and that's really what it's all about.
yeah.
So yeah, going back to the question, my
yeah.
boys are very proud, my husband's proud, and they're wonderful boys, and I think it's important women should raise good boys from a young age, with everything
Mm.
that's going on in the world and in Australia at the moment,
I
that
know. Mm,
need to sort of bring them up with respect to women, and compassion and empathy, and knowing how to talk to women, and yeah, treat women as equals, not as
yeah.
subhuman.
Mm,
Gosh.
definitely.
Yes,
I
100%.
think that needs to start from an early age, like really
Mm.
young.
Yeah, we absolutely have a role to play as parents and, yeah,
Yeah,
and society as a whole. But yeah, it's something you can do, isn't it? You feel so helpless when there has obviously been a number of terrible incidents involving, the murder of women in Australia so far this year. And yeah, when you do have boys, and Kathy and I both have sons,
Yeah.
does, it just hits, doesn't it? Really hits home. You can't do much about what's happening to those women, but you can certainly try and bring it into what's happening in your own house and home
yeah,
and education.
absolutely.
And make
Mm.
sure that, it's a whole family, like
Mm.
it's
Yeah.
important that they see good role modeling with good men around them as
Mm.
well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's not just solely on us as mothers.
No.
It's a family approach, and if they see their father treating their mother with kindness and respect and
Mm.
all of the things that are just basic human needs, and then that's what they learn. But if
Mm.
they don't see that, or if men around them don't necessarily pull up that negative type of behavior, then it's
Mm.
really hard. And I think we definitely have a part to play in that as parents, but I think it's men also have a part to play in that as
Absolutely.
well.
Gosh, yes,
So,
100%.
100%. Yeah.
Mm.
yeah.
Great ditto.
You were mentioning earlier that you've been through a lot recently. You've had 2 hip replacements. I'm
Yeah.
assuming that's bilateral, 1 on each side rather than 2 on
Yeah.
the one side.
Yes.
Mm.
Although I know people have multiple knee replacements and things, and I actually do know somebody that's had 2 hip replacements
Oh
on
my
the hip.
goodness. Yeah.
They were like 25 years apart, the 2 hip replacements.
Okay.
And you've also had a hysterectomy and career changes. So there's been a lot going on for you, and you just relaunched your business in February this year. Is there anything that's kind of left for you to do? Any change that you would like to make professionally or
Um,
personally, or yeah.
yeah, I've still got a few other different business ideas. My husband and I also, as a sidekick, we build on the side. So every year and a half, we build homes, beautiful homes, and I get to decorate and create the externals, internals. That's something that I love doing. But I'm really passionate about women's clothing for curvy ladies. Something I was just about to do after I'd finished up with Aphrodisiac in 2019, and then COVID hit in 2020. So I was about to I had a girl here when we drew up all the clothes, and yes, I've got a whole heap of clothing that I want to one day create.
Gosh,
You
you're
know,
like a natural entrepreneur.
yeah, I just, if I see something that's not there and I need it, and I know other women need it, then just go in and do it. So
Yeah.
I just, what
Just
do I
do
need
it.
to, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's take that leap and
Yeah.
do what you need to do, and it's possible. So yeah, I think that's something I might still do one day, but I do want to take HerConfidant globally. That's really important, Australia and worldwide. I think women all over the world need services like this. And then also, I thought about sanitary pads. As a woman using them since the age of 12, I think we can do better
Yeah.
with
Okay.
design.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Fair enough.
Business number 4
Left
for
field
Cathy.
there for
Yeah,
you.
Yeah,
yeah.
well, that's another very much a need,
Yeah.
that's probably not going away anytime soon.
That's right,
No.
that's right.
Listen, I'm only in my early 50s and got a lot of, life to live. I'm evolving and changing and just learning. With every decade, something new and exciting comes along, and just sort of enjoy every moment. And, you grow, you know what you want, you become that person that you need to be. And yeah, life's great.
Yeah.
I love that that's because it's such a great attitude to have generally. I think that we can get a bit caught up in the getting old, like it's, and getting older can be hard. Obviously, you can't hide from some of those realities, but at the same time, all that wisdom and learnings that you've had over the course of your life, and now just listening to you talk about all the things you will still want to do. Like 52 is not old.
No, no,
No,
There
no.
is
it is
plenty
not
of
old.
time. No, it is not.
Definitely not
It
old.
is not old.
We
No.
are we are a work in progress.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, still in your prime.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just listening to you and thinking, that I often get caught up in my own fear. I think there's that brilliant quote, "What if I fail?" And then they say, "But what if you fly?" And
Mm,
I'm in the "what if I fail" column, I mean,
mm,
I know that my parents would laugh and say that I've been quite impulsive over my life and done quite impulsive things and, um, don't think about the consequences of my actions, but in a general sense, I'm actually quite a fearful person, like, I'm quite fearful of risk, um, and so, listening to you say, "Oh, no, I'm just gonna give this a go, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter, like, there's
mm,
something else," and that's really important too.
I think life is full of experiences, and it shouldn't be seen as a fail. It's just an experience, and you
mm,
just pick yourself up and keep on going and just
mm,
stay positive. I think positive mindset's something that I've always had, and that's really, really important
mm,
because we're like on a roller coaster. Life, it comes up and it goes down and goes up, and you just have to really enjoy the ups because you'll get the downs.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to just get through those downs and keep on going. It's never a failure, it's just an experience. That's what I
Mm,
see it as.
I heard
yeah. A
something
learning.
the other
Yeah.
day. I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about, like, that failure, what is and everyone there's, like, people who have go through quite successful entrepreneurs and things like that. They go through every failure is seen as a learning opportunity. And they were talking about WD-40, which is something that we all have in our homes, and I believe it stands for water displacement 40, but the number 40 is how many times they reinvented, like, that they trialed the product until they got to the one that actually worked. So
Oh.
they tried it 39 times before they got the product that they believed would work. And that's why we call it WD-40. And it was like, well, that was really interesting, you know, like everyone knows. And so when you think about, like I was thinking about that, you know, that's 39 failures or attempts or learning opportunities. And yeah, so it's interesting for someone like me who finds risk quite scary, or change quite scary, that, you know, I shouldn't really.
No, there's nothing really to lose. You just have to give it a go, and you've given it a go. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then next.
That's right. Next. Yeah,
Next.
definitely. Anna, so we just obviously talked about some of the things left for you, many things left for you to do in the future, but I'm wondering about what changes you hope to see for women in midlife, but also just women generally and their sexuality. You know, we've talked about the heavy judgment that is often involved in that. What do you wish to see when you look to the future for women and sex?
I really want women to embrace themselves and accomplishments and who they are as a woman and what they've done in their lives, and be proud and stand proudly, and just really allow that to sink in and really love themselves for who they are. Because I think sometimes we don't, you know, when we just sort of constantly wanting to be better and prettier and skinnier. But yeah, I think just really embrace the moment, embrace yourselves and where you are, and sexually, you know, experiment, play, have fun. That's what sex is about. It's really nothing more than just, you know, it's so healthy to have an orgasm. It's so healthy to be touched. You know, I always go back to human connection. That's really important. And with AI and mobile phones and the way life is, we're losing that aspect. And I think that's really, really important as well. Connection, human interaction, and touch. And just getting back to old school, you know, getting back to kiss, keep it simple, stupid. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just so, so important. I think women need to really just enjoy their bodies, whatever size they are, whatever they look like. And we're not all Elle Macphersons and Cindy Crawfords, and just have to love ourselves for who we are, and what, you know, what we offer is also
Yeah.
important, and who we are is important.
Yeah. Yep. Love that.
I guess that brings us to our last question, and this is the one that we ask all of our guests, regardless of their age. So we've had some young women on, and I'm not sure if we've had anyone older than, maybe a little bit older than me. What are your feelings towards menopause or perimenopause or the menopause or the change? So where are you with that, and how do you feel
I
about
think
it?
I think I went through perimenopause after having kids. It never changed. My hormones never went back to normal,
Oh,
unfortunately.
really? Yeah.
Yeah, I've just always felt warm and hot. Like, I'm wearing a cardigan at the moment, but that's because I've got no heating in here. And at nights, you know, I'm taking blanket off, blanket on. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
my hormones have never been right since having kids for whatever reason. I've not been on anything. I'm all a la natural.
Yeah.
So, and with the hysterectomy, I've only got one ovary left. So, that little bugger is maintaining me. So I am going through menopause. I just sort of go with the flow, you know. I don't really. I've got a doctor, a wonderful female general practitioner that I've seen for the last 15 years. I also have, you know, a gynecologist. So I guess, you know, see the right people, speak to your specialists, or, you know, naturopaths, whoever you need to see. And everyone's different, everybody's different, every hormone, all our hormone levels are different. No one's really the same. So what one thing will work for one person, one might not work for the other. So find something that works for you. And
Yeah. That little
yeah,
sweet spot.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. So yeah, I mean, I'm not on anything. I'm just sort of going with the flow at the moment. And uh, it's better, but yeah, I haven't really wanted a jumper or jacket for
Mhm.
years. Got
Mhm.
used
Wow.
to
Well, keeps the
jackets.
cost down.
Yeah, just too hot because, you know, in the house you've got the heating on, and then you jump in the car, and then you get to somewhere and they've got the heating on and you're dying. So
Yeah.
yeah, you
Yep.
just wear a t-shirt and
Yeah.
have a bit of a hot flush, get something out, cool yourself off, and
Yep.
I always
Keep a
say
l
that the
yeah.
thermometer in the office should be controlled by the oldest woman in the room.
Mm.
It should be controlling the thermometer of the air conditioning in the office. And
I agree with
so,
you.
yeah, so the thermostat should be set on about 18 all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And
I think
everyone else just wears a jumper
Yeah,
and sucks it up. Yeah.
absolutely. Sucks it
Uh-huh.
up.
I agree. Yeah, so with menopause, it's just part of, our evolution as women, from the age of 12, we get our periods, then we have our babies, then, it's just never ending.
Yes, part of being
Yes.
a woman, yeah.
Just make the best of it as you can and
Mm.
have a good laugh about it with your girlfriends and listen to some really good podcasts and read some books and see who you need to see and get through it as well as you can.
And have some sexy
Absolutely.
times.
Exactly, if that's what you feel like,
Yes,
absolutely.
if that's what you feel like. Yep, enjoy the pleasure. Kathy, takeaway. We've spoken that you are a little bit of, well, you say you're not a prude, but are you a prude? How do you feel about it now?
I don't know. I really don't know. Would I use an escort service? No, not at the moment. I'm
Mm.
very happily married, do not
Mhm.
have the need for an escort service.
Mhm.
Pretty sure my husband, if he listens back to this, would be quite happy to know that would not be using an escort service. Would I consider it if I was single? Listening to Anna, definitely I can see that
Mm.
there would be definitely times where it would be nice to not be alone in certain,
Mm.
like, social settings or
Mm.
have company for dinner and it's a business transaction, right? So
Yeah.
you know that it's a safe space, you know that it's a safe environment, and you know what you're in for. Like,
Mm.
you set the parameters,
Mm.
and you're the one in control. So I can definitely see why there is a place in the market for it.
Mm.
And as Anna said, she's really just connecting people together.
Mm. Yeah, I thought that too. I think it's really interesting because I've done a couple of stories with women who work in the sex industry. So I've
Yep.
interviewed a lady who runs the sex parties and she's made a massive global business out of it, killing kittens. I've interviewed a woman who owns some brothels in
Yep.
the Newcastle area, and she was in her 60s and had done it for many, many years. I've interviewed a couple of sex workers. Anyway, my point is that the women.
And your very
Yep.
first story that you wrote for Mamma Mia was
Was
like,
when I went to the sex party.
can you go to a sex party?
I
I
did
mean,
go to a
like,
sex party,
yes,
yes,
like,
for the
there's
purpose of journalism.
I'm not going to the sex party, not
But
even for the purpose of journalism.
Look, it's a fascinating topic. I think it's endlessly fascinating for many reasons. But I think that the people that I've met, even at the party, were
Mhm.
all so interesting. And I think because you take away the judgment, you're in that environment, everyone knows you're at a sex party, you're going to be quite like open to sharing. And I feel
Yeah.
that the women that I've spoken to, yeah, sharing lots of things. But yes, the women that I have spoken to are always really interesting people who genuinely care about providing a service that suits women. Or that they've worked with women, like for example, the woman that has run a couple of brothels in the Newcastle area. She was very passionate about looking after her women that work with her and the sex workers, and she was real, a compassionate campaigner for women in the sex industry. I just think it's a very there's a lot of judgment that goes on around it, and I actually think,
Absolutely.
yeah, in real reality, the people that use the services, people that run the services, are actually very interesting individuals who care, and that very much came across with Anna. I feel she's obviously passionate about providing a really good service for women who might have gone through trauma or who have just want a really good shag,
Yeah.
like without
Yep.
without
And a
any
guaranteed shag,
a guaranteed shag that fits into their busy work corporate schedule. And I think there's an absolute place for a business like that. It's surprising to me actually that there isn't more of those sorts of
Yeah.
businesses.
I mean, there probably are, like, if we went looking for them, but
Yeah, perhaps there are. She's doing a great job of putting it out there into the world, and maybe it is just like we said, it's about the shame, isn't it? Women have
yeah,
traditionally
absolutely.
been slut shamed for even being interested in sex, and it's a kind of still a relatively uncomfortable topic for many. So I suppose it is going to take time for us to be freely discussing this kind of
Absolutely.
thing. Yeah.
And I suspect that a lot of women, you know, particularly women that are going through perimenopause or
Mm,
menopause, they will go to their doctor and they will say, "I'm having hot flashes, I'm feeling brain fog,
mm,
my body shape has changed." But very, very down on the low on the list, they might say, "My libido has changed,"
mm,
or "I'm a bit dry," or things a
mm,
bit, you know, a bit
yeah.
changed in that
Yes.
space. Whereas I reckon if you surveyed the same amount of men,
Oh my God, they'd
if
be like
things
freaking out about the
a
libido.
bit like if as soon, you know, like
Yeah.
they might not go to the doctors because of health issues, but they might go to the doctors and say, "Hey, that ain't working." Um, and
It's so
you
true.
know what I mean? Like it's
Yes.
um whereas and they have no shame necessarily talking about that.
No, because it's sort of a perceived normality for men, like, oh,
Yeah.
it's a yeah, so men are happy to just I mean, and whether is some, difference in the way men and women, feel about sex, it's probably quite down to the individual, I expect. It's very
Yeah.
much we've been conditioned to think that men like sex and women don't like sex, and I don't think that that is
I
true
don't think
at
it's
all.
no, not
No,
at all. Not at
no.
all.
But I think that that, women perhaps come to that realization, maybe a lot of midlife women, there's a bit of a blossoming for especially women that go through divorce, that you see those women back out there having the best sex and time of their lives. Um, or I think women just suddenly start to feel a bit more comfortable with themselves, with their bodies. They've had years of hating themselves, and then suddenly they're like, nah, fuck this. I need to
I want
enjoy
a good shag.
myself. Yeah, with someone else or
Or
by myself, whatever. But
or
yeah,
I'm gonna take matters into my own hands and I'm gonna do
exactly.
it myself. I
Yeah,
mean, that was
yeah.
certainly I can remember at the Mamma Mia offices,
Mm.
the amount of dildos that
Well,
were
yeah, they're just
on the
around, weren't
they were
they?
just, like, everywhere, you
Handing
know?
them out like
There's as
lollies.
many
Yeah.
there was as many beauty products as there was dildos in that office.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think there were more dildos than there were beauty products, but,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
And
and
that's young women have had that, they've grown up perhaps
absolutely.
thinking much more openly about pleasure and sex, and that it's normal and it's okay to self-pleasure, whereas, back in the 90s, that was not a thing.
Back in the 70s, well, no,
Yeah.
not 70s, I was
No,
only,
but
like, a baby in the
80s.
70s. In the 80s, no,
Yeah.
not like, it was about,
No.
like, it was something you did for men, you know?
Yes, a
Like,
performance even
it
or
was
something, or
for them.
yeah.
It was
Yeah.
less about what was in it for me, it was more about what's
Mm.
in it for them, kind of,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and thankfully that
yeah.
has changed. But yeah, for
Yes.
many women, I think there's definitely still, like Anna said, some issues around, yes, judgment and shame, but also just general communication with their partners, perhaps, about the needs and what they like and don't like. And yeah, and I just thought it's good, isn't it, to have these sorts of chats with women who are in and amongst it, because she's kind of like on the front line. She knows what's going on
Absolutely.
in the real world, what
Yeah,
women want.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was really interesting.
Thanks for listening to The Change, a fully independent podcast.
We love the Australian-made, all-natural skincare brand Alivio Wellness, and we know you will too.
Use code THECHANGE at the checkout to receive 20% off your next order. Whether you're seeking inspiration, curious about change, or just here for the great banter, we'd love you to make The Change your new go-to podcast.
And even better, send us your voice notes or questions about change. We'll use them on the show. Email us at changepod2023@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at _change_pod. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram for more on The Change.